So I'm going to put this in gendered terms. Okay. So one of the reasons why I think women don't do those things, or they cross boundaries without ever realizing it. And this is why I think it needs to be demonstrate, do not explicate. You don't explain boundaries. When a woman crosses the boundary, that's it. She has to learn that on their own, because the more, like, it's 48 laws of power, right? Always say less than necessary. And the more you talk, the more common you appear. Okay. The more you have to explain something, all that does is exacerbate a problem that's already there. She doesn't have the desire or the insight to ever want to get to know you that deeply to go, I wonder if going on to Vegas with the girls would be crossing a boundary. Yes, it is fucking crossing a boundary. The very fact that you want to do that is the problem, not the actual act of going out on girls' night out. Right? Your desire to do that and like, oh, I'm going to see if it's okay. The very fact that she's going to see if it's okay, she should already fucking know that it's not okay.
Yeah.
And so
makes sense.
But and so it comes down to like genuine desire. Do you actually have enough interest in me to know what I like, what I don't like, what I'm about, how patient I am, what my real value is, how busy I'm going to be, and how can you be a net benefit to that? That's the problem when it comes with men and women, and it comes to boundaries, is women don't care what your boundaries are. And even if you just explain them to her, like you say, okay, here's my, like, how many times, like I from the chat, right? How often have you ever heard a woman ask you, so what are your boundaries? That doesn't happen. It usually happens in the moment. Like, oh, I'm going to do this. I wonder if that's a boundary.
That's such what do you bring to the table vibes.
I so fucking hate that, because like the first thing anybody came back with that was like, well, what do you expect women to be a mind reader? Yeah, I kind of do, actually, because women expect men to be mind readers already. But it's not even about mind reading. It's about the very fact that you should be interested enough in that guy to already know what his boundaries are. So instead of like, oh, I would never delete my OnlyFans or my Instagram if he asked, it should be, would you do this because you see him as such a high value guy without being asked?
Yeah.
If his boundaries might be get off OnlyFans and get off Instagram,
why take the chance? I get it.
Self-initiate that yourself, because you value him you appreciate his value so much, and you have the insight to know that, and you understand what he's about, that you'll do it on your own without being asked. That's the question that needs to be asked on like Fresh and Fit or Access Vegas or wherever else, right? It's about it's about that is what the difference between genuine desire and obligated compliance is.
Yeah.
So if you're obligated to like pull your OnlyFans off, then yeah, women are going to chomp at the bit.
Well, what's your bait on that? Just obligated or resentful compliance or something was the only thing you get from negotiated desire. Yeah, obligated compliance.
Obligated compliance, right? So she'll do it. I guess I have to.
Oh yeah, no resentment will ever come of this. It'll never manifest in other unhealthy ways.
I don't want that. I don't want a woman to feel obligated to suck my. I don't want a woman to feel obligated to do anything for her. I want her to want to do those things.
It does feel good, doesn't it?
Because she understands my inherent value, right? And it's not, that's the difference. It's really hard because people want to put it in binary terms because they just can't wrap their heads around it, and they want to feel good about it, right? Well, open communication solves everything. Well, there's lots of ways to communicate shit, and one of those is punishment after you cross a fucking boundary. Now, again, does that mean you completely shit can the whole relationship as a consequence? It doesn't have to.
No, it's like a continuum of force. It's on par with the digression. Yeah. If your girl annoys you one day, then yeah, this afternoon I'm going fishing. If she cheats on you, maybe like, well, I'm going fishing forever. Goodbye.
Yeah. I'm gonna live in a truck down by the river.
Yep. So, I mean, that's another thing too. Like, how big a deal is it for you? I think a lot of guys have to ask a lot of self questions on this. How important is this boundary? Am I willing to nuke my family over it? In some cases, maybe it is worth divorcing your wife and possibly losing the kids over. If it's not that much, then you shouldn't be mouthing off about that boundary because you don't believe in enforcing it that well.
Or you never will. Or she knows you never will. That's why I always say, like, ultimatums are the ultimate expression of powerlessness, right?
Yeah. And girls, they will call bluffs. They are bred for it. Absolutely will call every man's bluff. I don't know if it's experience, or I don't know if it's part of what David Buss calls the commitment skepticism bias, but yeah, girls will call your bluff until they know it's not a bluff.
And the more the more they know that you are locked in, the more it sounds like bullshit, the more it's meaningless, right? Yeah. So
What are you going to do? Nuke your family, Matt Walsh? Please.
You know, what are you really going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, tough guy. Yeah.
And part of it is, and Reagan used to do this with the communists. I remember this when he was negotiating. He made himself look like a deranged lunatic with his finger on the button, on the nuclear button, so that Russia had to believe that he wasn't bluffing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, as a guy, what you have to do. You have to treat your woman like a communist.
Yeah, or like I try like a communist. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's again, when I talk about like demonstrate boundaries, don't explicate boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be like an automatic response. It can't be just like, if you keep doing this, I'm gonna do X, right?
Or else to the moon, Alice.
Now, what will happen is people go, well, yeah, if you do that often enough, then yeah, you're a paper tiger, right? You don't have any teeth to it. Well, I'll tell you this: the very first time you do that, you're a paper tiger.
Yep.
Because especially if you've been together like for 3 or 5 or 10 years or something like that, and she knows you're full of shit, and she knows you're just like, because what happens is you're in a worse position at that point because you're pandering and you're pouting like, oh, you know, I'm gonna take my ball and go home, and she knows damn well you're not gonna do jack shit about it. Mm-hmm. So it's like all this boundary stuff is absolutely meaningless unless you're willing to go and actually, you know, pull, you know, have some consequences to it. There has to be teeth to boundaries, and
has to be teeth, and she has to be worried about losing you. Otherwise, it's ineffective.
Man, it's like, okay, maybe you should just give her a warning or whatever. Okay, well, you can do that, but the very fact that you would need to do a warning in the first place means that she's not interested. Her interest level is low. Her desire level is low to even have the insight to actually think that maybe I crossed a boundary.
Isn't that crazy how guys, like, their boundary is being crossed and they still feel the need to defend the girl who's crossing it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about just a warning shot? It's like, wait, why are you on her side on this? Isn't she specifically not on your side on this?
Well, and then even then, like I said, the consequences don't have to be the nuclear option.
No,
there has to be consequences. There has to be something that you like. I hate to go, you know, Rollo Tomasi behaviorist, but there has to be. What is it? Punishment for undesired behavior. Right. Yeah. There has to, you're modeling behavior. It's operant conditioning is essentially what it comes down to.
Well, that's what is sociability, if not that. Us being social, sending off positive or negative reinforcement signals for people doing things. Even a dad just saying, you know, furrowing his eyebrow when his daughter misbehaves. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Well, sometimes,
but that's humanity. That's what social signals are.
Sometimes you have to be a hard ass because you care.
Yeah.
You have to like kick people in the ass because you care. Sometimes shit has to hurt.
Yeah.
Right? You have to like. Here's the thing is like, if you enforce consequences for crossing a boundary, like I said, it doesn't mean like it has to be the nuclear option, but there has to be some teeth to it. There has to be like, okay, I fucked up, because that's the only, what do they always say? Like children, I'm comparing children here, but like children don't listen to what you say. They watch what you do.
Yeah.
And so when it's better to, like, you know, learn a lesson by touching the hot stove than actually saying that's a hot stove and it could really hurt you, right? What's going to keep you from actually, you know, touching those things? Oh, some guy. Thanks, man. Much appreciated. Boundaries only work if you demonstrate them from day one and you never capitulate.
Well, not only, because a lot of what I'm doing in Dread is about that. What happens if you're a guy who's had squishy boundaries your whole life? You have to build them. And there is no time limit on it. There's no statute of limitations. If you decide day 566 you want to have a boundary, that's fine. And that's kind of one of those edge cases where I say maybe expressing it is a good idea because it's never been a boundary before and you've decided today it is. Of course, it will be called out as a bluff right away. And so it's going to get harder before it gets easier to enforce your boundaries. But yeah, largely that's what guys are doing as part of their unplugging, especially while married.
That's actually my ulterior motive was actually so I could get you to talk about your book.
Yes.
On this. But I'm just last point here is there's a certain guy that we know. I'm not going to name his name in our collective, let's just say, who was explaining something how a woman had crossed the line with him. And that he's like ghosting her. He's just like, you know, he's like, I'm done. I'm out. Eject next. Soft next, maybe. He'd probably end up.
Probably soft next.
It's probably a soft next, right?
Yeah.
And I was explaining to our good friend Jack Napier, whose name I will drop, that there has to be a consequence to those actions. And I said, look, he could simply say, hey, you crossed the boundary and here's how it is, right? He could do that. But the lesson that she's learning right now by wondering what's going on, it's forcing her to insight. So anything he could say is never going to be as effective as what she's imagining right now, because insight in women is exceptionally rare. Like for a woman to go, you know what? I was pretty fucked up. I think I owe him apology. That's one of the reasons why I love my wife so much, because she's the kind of person who like, and I don't even know this, right? Like we'll be talking about something and we'll just, I mean, I don't even think it's a fight. I don't even think it's like any kind of a heated conversation or anything like that. But we'll be talking about something. And then I've been like, you know, maybe half a day later, she'll come back and go, yeah, so I'm sorry about that. I was kind of wrong-headed about it. Like just to take it upon herself to have the insight to go, you know what, maybe I should apologize for that. Even for shit that I don't necessarily need an apology for, right?
Dude, same, yeah.
She has the insight to do that. It led, like when we're on like Access Vegas or Fresh and Fit or something like that, they'll say, what do you bring to the table besides your pussy and your mouth, right, and your ass, right? What do you bring to the table besides your sexuality? I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own nail business or some gourmet, muffin company or some shit like that. There's something that's like, they just throw out some bullshit. And you know what? So when people ask me, well, what should they say? Insight. That's the number one thing I think is the most value added thing a woman can bring to a relationship, is actually having that insight and that interest and that genuine desire for that.
Oh, but that won't fit on a bumper sticker.
No. Oh, no. You know why? Because it's capitulation. It sounds like submission is what it sounds. It sounds like deference is what it is. And it doesn't have to be. It just has to be interest enough to want to, like, what do we say? Like when a woman is really interested in you, she like starts rooting for the fucking Raiders.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or she's listening to Swedish death metal. You know,
it's also like, yeah, it's the same behavior you'll see in borderline personality disorder, just, you know, dialed back to a reasonable human level. That's the female condition. That's how people get together. Right. It's called mirroring. And then
just to make sure that I get this out here, is the reason why I'm sort of a, zero tolerance about this is not because I want to be some tyrant, or because I want to be some slave master. I don't. I want you to genuinely want to be interested in me and want to either have sex with me or not cross boundaries with me, bring insight to the relationship, bring value to the relationship because you want to, not because I'm like, okay, bitch, here's how it is, right? Yeah. I'm not looking for a slave. I'm not trying to say, well, you need to crush your poor little delicate girly spirit.
No, you're getting the girl to hold your drink while you do your set.
Goddamn right. Fuck yeah. Thank you for that. You are absolutely right about
There's that throwback to something from a while back, huh?
Say my name,
bitch. Anyways.
How funny. It all comes back to like good old fashioned mystery compliance tests.
Yeah. Comply or goodbye. Right. And again, it's not punishment. It's just, I'm not going to waste your time and you're not going to waste my time. It's just pragmatism. It's not like I'm trying to be a dick and get, oh, fine, I'm going to get her. That's not what it's about. Yeah. I don't want to waste my time with a woman who doesn't have 100% interest in me. And what was it? I think it was Gene Simmons from Kiss who used to say, he was like, I don't want to have sex with a chick who's drunk. I don't want her to have to be drunk to fuck me. I want her to be 100% sober and in the moment because she's that into me, right? I don't want her drugged up. I don't want her drunk. I don't want anything, because that says I want to actually experience you without having, without being fucked up all the time.
Fair.